Hello, everyone. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, there are more than 6,800,000 inmates in state and federal prisons in the United States. To put that number in perspective, the total population of the state of Wisconsin is only 5,800,000. That is almost 1 million people more in prison than in Wisconsin. Abolishing mandatory minimum sentences helps everyone by reducing prison populations, which will save taxpayers billions of dollars every year. As a senior in the Liberty University Criminal Justice Program, I have done extensive research on the topic of corrections in the United States. Mandatory minimum sentencing laws overinflate prison populations, fail to uphold Christian values, and cost taxpayers billions of dollars every year, and should be abolished by both state and federal governments. I will validate this statement by discussing how mandatory minimum sentences contribute to prison overcrowding, fail to serve God's purpose, and create a substantial financial burden on the American taxpayers as well. Let's discuss this in a little more detail, shall we? Mandatory minimum sentences overinflate prison populations. According to the Pew Charitable Trust, from 1980 to 2011, the most recent year for comparable statistics, the average prison sentence for federal drug offenders increased 36%, from 54 to 74 months. The Federal Bureau of Prisons states that since the mandatory minimum sentencing gained popularity in the 1980s, the total population has grown from 24,000 inmates in 1980 to over 200,000 as recently as 2014. In fact, the United States has the largest prison population of any country in the world. Now that we have established an issue with the population, let's discuss the cost to you and me. The inflated prison populations caused by mandatory minimum sentencing cause a huge strain on the American taxpayer. Housing a single inmate in the United States costs over $30,000 annually, according to the Federal Register. Americans spend around $49 billion annually in prisons. These costs grew significantly in the decades after the popularity of the mandatory minimum sentences. And now for my final point. These sentences are not in keeping with Christian values of forgiveness and caring. Ephesians 4:32, be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgive one another as God in Christ forgave you. With many of these sentences being for non-violent drug offenses, we should be trying to heal the person's addiction rather than just punish them. And the prayer of faith will save the one who is sick, and the Lord will raise him up. And if he has committed sins, he will be forgiven. James 5:15. Faith in God can be a very, very powerful rehabilitation tool. Let's wrap this up, shall we? We see that mandatory minimum sentences cause many problems in our country. Mandatory minimum sentences have caused prison populations to skyrocket. They have become a huge financial burden to all of us, and maybe worst of all, they require us to act against our own Christian faith. The only true solution is to abolish them altogether. Write your state legislator and elected officials. Make your voices heard and stop this wasteful practice. I leave you with a quote from social activist and philosophy professor Angela Davis. Imprisonment has become the response of first resort to far too many of our social problems. Thank you.